Hi everyone and welcome back to The Healthy Human. Today's video is going to be all about my personal health journey and how I lost 10 kilos. I hope this video is helpful in some way, whether it is how I changed physically or how I changed mentally. Basically, I went from this very low self-esteem, overweight and low confidence to this, someone who is a lot happier, healthier and open to new opportunities and beginnings. I have about 150 progress photos saved in my camera roll, so I'm going to be showing you some of those throughout this video, and so you can see how much I've changed in the past 8 years. I'm also going to be doing a sort of part 2 of this video, kind of like a follow-up of all the things that I wish I had known before starting my health journey. Let's get stuck into the video. In 2012 was really the year that I started getting into health and fitness, so I was about 14 years old. I'd played basketball my whole life, but outside of that, didn't really do much exercise or knew much about it, and my diet was pretty shocking, if I'm honest. Also, as I was still 14, my body was still changing and growing at that time. But at that point, I was starting to develop sort of feelings of very low self-confidence and self-esteem, which I think is really quite sad for someone that age. But anyway, this wasn't even the age that I kind of noticed my weight. I think I was about 10 years old when I realised, or I felt like I was a bit bigger than what I should be. So towards the end of 2012, my family got a cross trainer and I basically said to myself, I'm going to get fit. And I didn't tell anyone, I just said, nah, I'm going to do it, and that's exactly what I did. In about 10 weeks or so pretty much the whole of term 4, I'd lost about 13 kilos. So I went from about 75 kilos to about 62 kilos in that time. I pretty much just lost the weight from going on the cross trainer every single day and making healthier food choices. So after dinner every night, I would usually have this massive bowl of ice cream. But instead of having that, I basically just changed it with a big bowl of fruit instead. So this all sounded pretty good on the outside. I was exercising a lot and eating healthier, and people were noticing how much weight that I lost. There was a lot of comments going around, but I'd actually become quite obsessive, especially with exercising and calories. I had this little exercise routine that I did every single morning and every night, and I had to do it, otherwise I couldn't go to bed. And if I didn't somehow do it, I felt so guilty and I would have to make it up the next day. I also only ever went on the cross trainer, like I think I did it like an hour or maybe more every single day, nothing else. I remember during that time we had this family thing at our house and I kept sneaking upstairs to go on the cross trainer for like 5-minute intervals because I just had to get my cardio in and I had to get that cross trainer done, and if I didn't do it, I would feel like a failure and I would feel awful, guilty and just real quite shitty. Like I never thought that I could ever take a day off. Like I would feel guilty for kind of slacking or whatever. So naturally, kind of doing this every day and having those kind of obsessive thoughts, I lost the weight very, very quickly. Only in 10 weeks I lost 13 kilos. I was that whole kind of skinny fat though. I only ever did cardio. I never did any strength training. I didn't even know what strength training was. So I really didn't have any shape to my body and I wasn't very strong, I guess, at all. I don't have any photos from this time, unfortunately, so I can't show you guys, but I was, I guess, fairly skinny compared to what I am now. But yeah, there was no shape to me at all. For the next 3 years, I was up and down on my weight quite often. I remember after I'd lost all that weight initially, it was Christmas time. And then I pretty much just completely fell off the bandwagon and ate everything in sight basically. So I lost complete control and put everything back on within the next year. It was like I couldn't remember how to portion size, or I couldn't remember how to eat healthy, and I think because I'd restricted myself so much initially, I just started having these kind of binging episodes, and ultimately I was eating far too much food and unable to work it all off, so I put all that weight back on. For the next 3 years I was on and off exercise programs constantly, always saying I'll start on Monday again or I'll make better choices tomorrow. I was constantly counting calories, weighing myself, feeling bad about how I looked, and I was even looking up models on Pinterest and how skinny they were. I remember looking up Thinspiration on Pinterest because that's how I wanted to look, and I felt so awful that I'd put on all this weight and now I didn't look like that. I never once really took a break from dieting. I was just so focused on losing weight and doing it as quick as possible that I thought, if I even take one day off thinking about this, it's gonna, hinder my progress, or, I'm not gonna lose this weight in the time that I want to. But in hindsight, it took so much longer because I was restricting, binging, feeling bad, and it was just a constant cycle, and it took me, and I was never gonna lose that weight anyway. I never told anyone how unhappy I was. I think if I ever kind of mentioned it, that I felt like I was a bit overweight, it'd always be comments like, oh, you don't need to lose weight, or you look fine, or you're fine the way you are, or anything like that. But I never ever agreed with them. I was so set on changing how I looked. At the end of 2015, so I was 17 years old, I got fed up with trying to change myself. I got really frustrated with the lack of progress I'd made over the past few years. So because of that, I pretty much stopped exercising and eating healthy altogether. I just kind of thought I was a lost cause, so why not just eat what I want and not exercise. It was Christmas time that year, and I remember just literally eating everything and anything I wanted in ridiculous amounts. Like, I would eat so much that I would feel sick in the stomach, but I would just continue to eat because I could, and why not? I felt so sad that I had absolutely no self-control, but then I would make myself sadder by then continuing to eat and do things that I knew would make me feel really shit. So just before that Christmas, I bought my formal dress. So this was in October, and my formal was in January, so the start of my last year of high school. So in October, the dress fit perfectly, and come January, I could barely zip the dress up. I remember at that time feeling so ashamed and embarrassed that I could barely get this dress zipped up, that I considered almost not going to the formal at all. And when I finally got the dress zipped up, I could barely breathe. So I took photos at this time in January. These are probably my most hard-hitting photos that I have. I was at my heaviest, my lowest point. My mental health at that time was definitely the lowest it has ever been. I didn't realise how big I'd gotten over those Christmas months, and it was scary to think that I'd put on 10 kilos in just that short amount of time. So I had basically gone from 75 kilos to 84 kilos in just a matter of months. These photos basically gave me a wake-up call. That final year of high school, I decided that I needed to get my shit together. So that year I lost about 9 kilos. I made better choices, and I started going to the gym before school regularly. So by the end of the year, I was back down to 75 kilos. I usually fluctuated between 72 and 75 kilos over the next few years. However, I did develop some more kind of restrictive behaviours, not the ones that I initially had when I was 14, but some kind of different ones. I was at that age where I was finally able to go out and drink, but I felt like I could never truly enjoy myself. I felt like I would go backwards on all my progress if I'd gone out for dinner and then chosen something super creamy to have, or I had Macca's on the way home after a night out, or I'd had a piece of chocolate cake for someone's birthday. So I'd be really restricting on the night and be so conscious about what I was eating. But then as soon as I would go home after I left everyone, I would start eating all this stuff. I become sort of like a bit of a secret eater, because if no one could see it or knew about it, it wasn't exactly cheating. All in all, however, from about 18 to 20 years, I did become a much better person mentally and physically. So a majority of the time I was quite healthy, but I still felt like I had more to prove, and I had a bit of a long way to go. I felt like I hadn't reached my peak. I wasn't my best self yet. There was a time, however, in 2017, I was 19 years old. It was summertime, and I just decided to take a photo of myself. I weighed 72 kilos and had just bought a bikini. I was about to go outside and lie next to the pool, but I thought, no, I'll go and take a selfie in the mirror. I remember looking at the photo after I'd taken it and almost crying. It was the first time I'd worn a bikini and the first time I actually liked what I'd seen in the mirror. I wasn't far from my 75 kilo start, I was only down 3 kilos, but my body composition had completely changed. Because I'd implemented weight training and was doing that regularly. I was also a lot more educated at that time about how to track foods. At the start of 2019, I decided to do a workout program for Bodies by Rachel. I had been lurking on the Facebook group for that workout program, and I'd seen all these great transformations and people posting about their non-scale victories and how happy they were with themselves after they'd done the program. So I thought, I can afford that, I'm gonna do it. It was a 6-week program where they give you 6 workouts a week, and then also they do a meal plan for you and work out all your macros. I remember doing those 6 weeks so perfectly. I also cut out quite a lot of gluten and dairy due to some sensitivities I had, and that made a massive difference in my skin and my bloating. Every Sunday I would prep my food for the week. I did every single workout. I probably worked out more as well, as I was also basketball training and I would walk my dogs quite frequently. I managed to get to 69 kilos by the end, so I'd lost 3 kilos. That might not seem like a whole lot, but for someone that was stuck between 72 and 75 kilos for so long, it was the best feeling. I was so proud of myself. I'd never felt better, and I was in the 60s now, which I hadn't been since I was about 14, so that was a massive milestone moment for me. I took my after photos, compared them to my before, and the difference in my body was amazing. The night the challenge finished, I went out with my friends and wore this tight bodycon dress, and I felt like $1,000,000. Yeah, you could see how much my body had changed, but I felt 10,000 times better mentally, and I was so incredibly proud of myself that I actually felt confident enough to go out and wear that dress in public and just kind of rock it and not feel embarrassed at all. I think that's something that I was most proud of at that time. I learned so much about protein, carbs and fat during that program as well, which has been so invaluable to my lifestyle now. I also stopped feeling self-conscious about just wearing a sports bra around the house or telling people what my weight was, which is something that I would never have done. So that challenge was back in March last year. I don't weigh or look exactly the same as I do now. In the last few months I put on about 5 kilos, but that's totally okay. I've been prioritizing a lot of other things other than exercising every day and following a strict meal plan. And it's totally okay for that to happen. Sometimes in life other things need to come first rather than your workout schedule or your super healthy, clean eating. But I'm definitely excited to get back into it because my clothes have been feeling a little bit tighter. I have come so far, but I am so excited for this 2020 to go back and put myself first and to get back to feeling my absolute best. My mental health has changed so much over this journey, and I'm a much more happier person, and I'm a lot more confident. I even wore a crop top to the gym the other day with just my leggings, which was a massive step for me. I can't even imagine ever thinking that beforehand. If this had happened a few years ago, I would have completely fallen apart and nitpicked at every little thing about myself and just gone into this big hole of negativity. I would have told myself that I'm a failure, and that probably would have ended up with me eating a whole block of chocolate, some ice cream, and probably some donuts. I'm really happy that I'm in a place now that I can accept my body for what it is and whatever body composition it is at this time. Throughout this whole experience though, I have learned a lot. So things like, there's no such thing as good and bad foods. There's moderation and things that make you feel good. So for me, I used to think that I couldn't have any sweet foods because they would hinder my weight loss. I restricted myself so much that occasionally I would give in, but give in so much that I would have like a binging episode. The foods you restrict yourself most of is the foods you definitely should not cut out. You just have to work them into your diet and have them in moderation and occasionally instead of all the time. So for example, at the moment I am having an ice cream every day for my afternoon snack, and it is awesome. I have also learnt that there is such a thing as overtraining. Just because you missed your hour workout today does not mean that tomorrow you then have to go and do 2 hours of workouts. Also, scheduling one workout for the morning and then scheduling another one for the afternoon, which is what I used to do, is not maintainable and definitely not something that the average person can do. It's excessive and not necessary unless you're an athlete. Another tip is doing hours of cardio only gets you so far. You need to do strength training. If you have a goal that you want more shape to your body, more muscle definition, solely cardio isn't going to get you there. And strength training makes you feel stronger, and feeling stronger is an amazing feeling anyway. My next tip is telling someone makes things way easier. This is especially true if you live with parents and siblings like myself. If you don't tell anyone, you're going to be served things that you don't want. There's going to be temptations around your house 24/7 and you're going to be doing everything alone. If you keep it to yourself, you're always going to have to come up with excuses as to why you don't want something. For example, why you don't want takeaway because you know it's not going to make you feel good. Another thing I learned is no one notices if you put on a few kilos, so stop thinking everyone is staring at you. Literally, that is me right now. I put on 5 kilos and no one has noticed. I told my mum how much weight I put on over the past few months and she was shocked. So were my friends. They thought I was all being completely dramatic. The next thing I learned was education is so important if you want to make a change. So this includes educating yourself on the nutritional content of foods, calories, and any food intolerances that you think you might have. This can make your progress go a lot faster. Also, educating yourself on different workouts and different workout methods if you have a particular goal in mind. The next thing is some people make progress a lot faster than you, and that is okay. You just have to accept it. Everyone is different, and if you're on level 1, don't compare yourself to someone that's on level 10 and is making progress way faster than you could even imagine. Stay in your own lane and focus on yourself. The next thing is being healthy and developing a healthy routine can truly change your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-love. This happened to me, and this is probably my favourite part of my whole journey. My mind has changed so drastically that I can barely remember the person that I was a few years ago. The last thing I learned is don't think the reason you've never been able to get a boyfriend is because of how your body looks. I actually thought this for so long, and it is so silly. I went through a phase from about the age of 17 to 20 where I didn't know many boys, or if I did, we'd only go on a few dates before it would just end. I basically convinced myself that the reason was because I wasn't skinny and I didn't have an amazing body, or I wasn't beautiful, blah blah blah, or they'd rather be with a girl that was basically a model. That is so not true. Once I stopped thinking like that, I realised my worth and stopped focusing on myself so much physically. I started focusing on what would make me feel good rather than look good, and this opened me up to a whole bunch of opportunities. One opportunity included me saying yes to a date with someone I had never met before, and he ended up becoming my boyfriend. By no means throughout this video am I recommending you do exactly what I did. There is no right way to make a change, and everyone thrives off different approaches. My top tips though are, tell your mum, partner, or your friend. This makes life so much easier if they are aware of the change that you want to make. You don't even have to say that you want to lose weight if you think that they might react in a way that you don't like. You can just say that you want to eat healthier and feel better, and who knows, they might even join you. The next tip is to do cardio and strength training. A combination of both would be best. If you don't know much about strength training, there is plenty of resources on the internet and photos, videos showing you how to do exercises that you might have never done before. My next tip is do not weigh yourself too often. This can discourage you, and you can completely change your body shape while still weighing the same anyway. Don't go off the scales. Taking measurements and progress photos is a much more accurate representation of your progress. The next tip is to educate yourself on calories and macros. This will save you so much time. You don't have to count calories or macros for your whole life, but doing it for a short time until you know the nutritional content of the foods that you're eating can be a big game changer, and it can also make you a lot more mindful when you're eating. My last tip is don't be scared. Starting something new is always going to be scary, but it is so important not to put so much pressure on yourself. Celebrate the small wins, not just the big wins. You're putting yourself first, and it might take you a while to find the right approach and get your rhythm, but you will find it. And that's it. Doing this video was actually a very scary experience for me. I'm not someone who is a big sharer, in all honesty, especially when it comes to this topic. And I am the only one who has ever seen these photos. And if this video helps anyone at all, that is an added bonus. If you have any questions or comments, please comment down below or shoot me a message. I am always happy to talk or listen. Please like and subscribe to this video or share it with someone that you think might benefit from it. I hope everyone has a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.